Hi, and welcome to Mom Boss Chronicles. We are your hosts. I am Jen.
I'm Sue.
And we are empowering and inspiring people through meaningful conversations. So make sure to like and subscribe to listen to great content weekly.
Welcome back to Mom Boss Chronicles. We have a special guest here with us today, Dr. Emily Splichal. She is a podiatrist. She is the CEO and founder of Naboso Technology, and she is an author of Sensory Sapiens. I didn't have a chance to crack into that yet, but I am really excited to read through that book. First, I'm going to start off because I was kind of going through your Instagram just to get a better sense of you, and I think you were in another interview talking about previously your interest in profession was forensics. And I just thought that was very interesting. Obviously, you have a care-based approach to life, but what kind of inspired you to get more into this like fitness and health and functional medicine?
Yes. So my background is in forensics, and I was actually going to go the whole way of like a PhD, CSI, crime scene, the whole track. But my background before that was gymnastics, and I was a competitive gymnast for 13 years. So movement really is at the core of who I am and my DNA. So I just, kind of thinking about, do I want to deal with death or more happy things like movement and fitness? So yeah, I actually switched my track and then got into the fitness industry. That was 24 years ago now.
Wow.
And because of my background in gymnastics, my body was used and abused by the time I was 20. So then that's where I was like, okay, I need to make sure I get an advanced degree. And that's where I then got into fitness.
I love that. And I feel like I work out myself and I'm very much into fitness and, taking care of body and eating well. But I do think I don't hear a lot about podiatry and I don't hear a lot about functional fitness and medicine based off of foot health. Yes. So like fill us in, like what are we missing here? Because I haven't heard anything, but I feel like we're missing out big time.
So functional. So I'm trained as a podiatrist. And then as I was going through podiatry school, I was seeing that it was a very isolated profession, meaning that the foot was treated as the foot, not connected to the rest of the body. It's not connected to the human being, which is just very counter to obviously how the foot really is. Right. And medicine is if you believe in functional medicine kind of ethos, is they believe in treating whole person and this integrative alternative approach where the patient is an active participant in the process. So I absolutely just love that. And I wanted to bring that to the podiatry profession. So there's not a formal functional podiatry accreditation yet, but that is my goal.
Okay.
My next career goal
Yes.
is to create an accreditation to then really advance the profession of podiatry to be much more holistic and whole person approached. So yeah, you won't find a lot on functional podiatry yet.
I know, but you are blazing the trail right now on that. I find I guess what I'm more not educated, but I guess I've heard more about like reflexology and how the different parts of the bottom of our feet are connected to different organs in our body. Is that true?
Yes. Okay. And I'm not trained in reflexology.
Yeah.
I do send patients to reflexologists. I train a lot of reflexologists. I will train them about my approach to the foot. So I'm kind of dancing in the circle of the reflexology space, but I really do believe it. I think that there's a lot to Eastern medicine practices and how can we bring East to the West and kind of marry them a little bit more. So yeah, I absolutely do recommend that as well.
Okay. And so the products I was checking out, one, I love that they are very texture based. I think, it's funny. A lot of times I feel like people are talking about sensory items for little kids, but I like sensory items too.
It would be nice as an adult.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited to try out your products as well. But can you tell me like how, just how you develop some of these products and, what was your favorite to create so far or what you're really like loving the best?
Yeah, so the different products that we're referring to, and if people happen to see the video, I have one of the products, it's a neural ball, and it's textured, These products, which are by Naboso, which is my company, they are all sensory-based products using texture, but this texture is a very specific texture. This is stimulating the nerve in our feet that we use when we read Braille. So the
Oh.
same nerve in our finger to read Braille is the same nerve that we stimulate in the feet with the Naboso products. And we use the word texture, it's actually 2-point discrimination. So if you're thinking of Braille, you're kind of differentiating the dots to read the Braille. We do that same thing. And then that's where we can build foot awareness, we can improve balance, posture, it can change the way that people walk. So a lot of benefits by stimulating the nerves in our feet. So I launched this company 5 years ago. Now it's a global company and it's a behemoth that I did not realize would be
Oh
that
my
big.
God.
But we have over 40 products, all featuring that same texture. That texture is patented. And I would say my favorite product, because you're asking, is our socks. And our socks have the same texture on the inside.
Oh,
What
that's so
would
cool.
touch your feet would be the texture. So you can stimulate, strengthen, and recover your feet by literally just walking around your home.
Without having to set aside time for it to stop and
Yeah. So because most people, what I've learned 12 years in podiatry is most people do not prioritize their feet, that I have to make it very easy, very frictionless. So how can I minimize the friction between the individual actually doing their foot care, their foot health regimen, and by just slipping on socks at the end of the day is like one of the easiest ways to do it. And we see really, really good results. So yeah, that would probably be my favorite product.
That's
And
so innovative.
yeah, it took 2 years to figure out how to make the socks.
Mhm.
Our first product, which was a barefoot training mat with the texture. So imagine a yoga mat with all these tiny little pyramids on it. That took 2 years from concept to reality or mass production took 2 years. So there's a lot of innovation behind the products.
Oh, that's so cool. In terms of operations, obviously you're growing, you're scaling your business. Are you very hands-on? Are you building your team out and delegating the work? Like, how are you from that operation side? How are you building your business out more?
Well, yeah, so I was definitely the solopreneur at
Yeah.
one time where I launched Naboso out of my New York City apartment
Wow.
and recruited my boyfriend at the time to be my kind of warehouse person to help with the orders. So definitely started from that. Now, so the end of 2024, we brought in our largest investor, so several $1 million investor, that we were able to expand our team. So
Wow.
now I can really push into the role that is best for me, which is product development, content creation, being the face of the brand. I
Right.
speak at a lot of conferences. I have to be the one who's really pushing the thought leadership or the category awareness.
Yep.
That's my role. And then I have an incredible team for sales and logistics and operations and financial. And, I started doing it all. And then now I can lean into my strengths, which is the best part.
Right. That's amazing. And it's such a testament, to your hard work and dedication to what you believe in, right? And this is something that you are backing, you believe in it. So are you originally from the East Coast?
So no,
Okay.
although most people think that, so they think that I'm a New Yorker through and through.
I was getting a bit of a New Yorker vibe.
There you go. Thank you. Even just lie and compliment me that way. But no, so I was born in North Dakota.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm a Midwest girl, and then I went to undergrad in Minnesota. Then I lived in DC for a short period before I moved to New York City, and then I lived in New York City for 20 years.
Wow.
And then I moved to Arizona about 4 years ago after I had my daughter.
Okay.
I didn't want to raise her in New York City, but I was also ready for a new chapter. 20
Yeah.
years in New York is
20 years is more than enough. I worked in Manhattan and lived in Jersey City for 15 plus years. And
Yeah.
now
It's a grind.
we live in Monmouth County in New Jersey. So we both live by the beach, which is a
Slower
much
pace.
better
Yes.
lifestyle. So your daughter is about 4 years old?
so she's 5 now.
Okay, 5. Yeah, that's so exciting. Is she kindergarten this year?
She is in kindergarten, and they're actually now she's graduating
Yeah.
kindergarten soon. Where I'm just like, oh, don't grow up too
It
fast.
happens so fast, right?
I
We have little
know.
kids too, and we were just literally talking about how we're trying to savor every moment, because it's just
You blink.
it's flying by.
Yeah.
I know, I
How
know.
do you
So
find?
she still likes to be like, "Mommy, carry me," or
Yep.
"Mommy, help me go to the bathroom." I'm like, "I will wipe your bum until you don't let me anymore."
Yeah,
I
Like, I
know.
don't care. I don't care. Like, it's just like those little things that you hold on to. And she has just a few last little words that are her own language, which
Mhm.
I love. My favorite one of hers is nunny. Instead of like none and nothing, she calls it
Aw.
nunny.
Nani.
Like, they're like, you should correct her. And I'm like,
Oh, she'll do it eventually, and then your heart will break
she'll
a little.
talk proper English.
Yeah.
How do you find time for it all, right? To be a mom, to run the business, and do you still have a practice that you?
I do have a practice.
Wow.
And so I definitely did career first, parent second, or family, I guess you could say, because I had her when I was 39.
Okay.
I know what you mean. So, like, you made career a focus for your life for a while. Yeah.
Yep. So I did really built my name and my identity in the career, my network, just everything as far as how I wanted to push into my career through my 30s. And
Mhm.
then I still wanted to have a family and have children or a child. So then at 39 is when I had her. But then, of course, when I had her was when Naboso
Mhm.
exploded.
That happens.
And yeah, it was very, very difficult. My now ex-husband was part of my company, and we would have to travel at the same time.
Mm.
And so I'm forever grateful to the nanny that we had. She's just this incredible human being who she essentially like moved in and was the third constant for my daughter
Yep.
because I wanted a constant. And like we do what we need to do as moms, right?
Right.
And moms, it is daycare, family, part-time. How do you do it, right? And I'm very grateful that we were able to have a nanny who stayed with her for 4 years. So from 1 years old to 5 years old, she stayed with her.
Gotcha.
And we even paid her extra because she then got accepted to like university. And I was,
Oh,
if you defer
yeah.
your education, will
Yeah.
bribe you for your education
Yeah.
so just until she goes to school.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult, and that's why I'm so grateful that we had that because I had to grow up Naboso because to me Naboso is how I provide a future for my daughter.
Your
100%.
legacy, right?
Yep.
That's your legacy.
Yes, exactly. So it was a necessary part of the story, and
I
yeah.
love that you have the foresight to see that, like, because you're, I'm sure, an amazing podiatrist, have an amazing practice, but then you were like, how can I keep helping people across the country and the world? And you had the
Yeah.
foresight to create something to help everyone. So cool.
Absolutely. And take care of your daughter. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, at the end of the day, we need a village. I myself, I'm a single mom, and I don't know what I would do without the people that help me, and the arsenal of babysitters that I have, because at the end of the day, I do have to work too. And I love working, I love that I get to show my son at the end of the day what grit looks like, and that's just a reality. And you're showing your daughter, you can build, you can
Yes.
make something, and we need help. We just support each other. Yep.
No, I definitely agree. And especially as a female with a daughter, is that I want
Yes.
to see that strength. Also, for my mental health and well-being, is that I have to still have my personal identity. And I know like my mom didn't. She was like, my world is my children, and she
Yep.
was just literally me and the kids. And then when we all kind of got older, graduated, then she's kind of like, oh, right. So it was just really important for me to maintain my identity. And then I take her to a lot of
Yeah.
things, like I go to the gym, I do ballroom. She sits at the ballroom when I do my lessons. So
I was looking at those videos. Amazing. How did you get into that?
from my boyfriend. So
Yeah.
he did ballroom growing up, and then he just said he always wanted to like dance with a partner.
Mhm.
And yeah, it definitely my feet were kind of like dragging my heels when he was trying to take me. And then I started and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And so I'm like a little kid when I take the lessons, and he's much more cerebral about it, which is so funny because outside of dance, he's like not a child, not a man child. That's what it is.
Lighthearted.
He's like the goofball clown who's like
Yeah.
and I'm very like doctorly CEO. So it's so funny. We just like switch roles when we do
Oh,
ballroom.
that's hysterical. And I love that. It takes you out. It takes everyone out of their own day-to-day,
Yeah.
Yes,
mentality.
yes, yes, exactly.
That's so much fun. So what's on deck for the future for Naboso?
So we have some new products that we're developing, 5 this year. So we alternate
Wow.
product launch years with kind of just pushing into growing the audience. And so every other year we really do a lot of product launches. So it's a lot of innovation, R&D, a lot of traveling. I'm going to Australia, to Korea, to Tokyo. So all within the
Amazing.
next 2 months. So
So this
that's
is
a lot.
worldwide. This is so cool.
Yeah, so that's a lot. Unfortunately, I don't get to take my daughter with me, but my ex-husband, her dad is incredible and will
That's
That's
awesome.
great.
over that part, knowing that I need to help build and spread the word of
Yes,
this.
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
then your book, Sensory Sapiens, tell us and our listeners a little bit more about your book. I love the title.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So my first book, which will kind of make sense and lead into the second book. So my first book is called Barefoot Strong, and I wrote that and published that 10 years ago. And that was really built around how a lot of people think of me as a functional podiatrist is I work with a lot of minimal shoe companies. I'm a huge advocate for barefoot stimulation, for barefoot training, for athletes, children, individuals to all just get
There's a lot of
enough
benefits, right?
foot activation. Yeah. So there's so many benefits of connecting to your feet. So
Mhm.
that's the first book, Barefoot Strong. And then, so 10 years later, almost exactly, is when I launched my second book, which was a month ago. And it's called Sensory Sapiens. And it is a sensory based approach to movement and longevity. And the premise of it is that obviously our feet are sensory, but my professional journey has gone much further than just the foot is sensory. I now look at the whole body, how we connect to our awareness of where our body is in space. It's called body schema. That's like your mind's mental picture of your body. I tap into a lot of interoception. So that's a lot of like safety. So autonomic nervous system and how do we perceive safety versus threat has to do with
Mm,
your internal sensations and your awareness and then your interpretation of those, which then puts emotional regulation into this story. And then I talk a lot about our fascial system. So the connective tissue web that is everywhere in your body. There's millions of nerves in your fascia, your eyes, your ears, your joints. So kind of this very vast interplay of sensory stimulation for awareness, self-awareness leads to optimization of mood, memory, and movement. So I just think we are a very sensorially
yeah.
Oh,
disconnected
yeah.
world now with technology, and we need to get back in touch with ourselves. And touch is so important. Naboso is really touch nerves that we're stimulating, and just everything has changed where kind of in the fitness space, people are like, oh, you can't even touch your clients anymore to say, like, cue here, move
Right.
your fingers, contract. Do you feel here? Like,
Yep.
there's just this weird stigma around touch now
Yep.
where there's a great book called Touch that was written, I think like 50 years ago. It's a fascinating look at just the power of human connection. And essentially, I'm trying to push that forward again.
I
Yes.
love that.
I think it's important. I mean, I'm a hugger, right? And I
Yeah.
think like, in that regard, a piece of sensory, a practice I actually started doing a couple of years ago. I mean, whether grounding is real or not, I'm going to believe that it is, but just having that sensation of the grass. And I feel like stepping out every
Yeah.
morning, the first thing I do is go stand in my lawn and breathe, with my bare feet. And it
Yeah.
feels amazing. It's a great way
Yeah.
to start the day.
There's a lot of research behind earthing and grounding,
Hmm.
and I'm very much into that as well. I remember before I was in, I don't know, even like 10 years ago now in India, and I was talking about like earthing and grounding, and I was there teaching, and this person was saying, ah, yes, this is like a tradition that is passed through just generations of Indian culture that you go outside first thing in the morning when the grass is a little like dewy
Hmm.
and you actually transmit the electrical conductivity more when you have the morning dew on the grass. So it was really, really interesting that they had said that in this culture that, had probably a little bit different philosophy on it than a Western approach, but
Right.
there's so much research behind earthing. And if you're curious to read more on it, there's a Dr. Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
Not
Believe
Frank
it or
Capra.
not, there's a Dr. Frank Sinatra who he actually passed away a few years ago, but he was a cardiologist. And he was a huge advocate and researcher of earthing for his cardiac patients.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
There's research showing increases in circulation to the feet, to the lower leg after 15 minutes of earthing. It was really, really interesting, his work.
I'll have to check
It's
that
funny,
out.
my husband loves to walk around barefoot. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and he
good.
has cardiovascular issues. So like I'm gonna tell him that's like benefit for
Yeah.
him.
Tell him
But
to go stand in the backyard, put his feet in the grass.
but it's funny because he walks around barefoot all the time outside from the yard and I'm like, what are you doing? But
Is that and like for our kids too? I mean, I know everyone rushes to get the first training walking shoes.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I don't know. My brain, I'm like,
let him walk.
let them walk in their feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with children, so as kind of this barefoot advocating functional podiatrist, my approach of children and shoes or barefoot stimulation, you really want to keep them as barefoot as long as possible, especially through the age of 4.
Okay.
And the reason is that there's this peak window of neuroplasticity where the brain is open and your brain is developing a lot of these sensory motor synapse pathways, right? Everything is just being really optimized and the brain is wide open. So that's the time that you want to really be pushing into sensory stimulation. So that is where I will always encourage parents to do a lot of barefoot play in the home. They should not have shoes on. It doesn't make sense to have shoes on at
Yep.
home. It does not make sense to have shoes on a non-ambulatory child,
Yep.
right? It does not make sense.
Yep.
So if they are 6 months old, does not make sense. You should be, and even socks. Like I never had my daughter in socks. I never had her in obviously mittens so she wouldn't like scratch her eyes out.
Right.
But like you want to try to expose the skin as much as possible to get that sensory information. Another really cool study showed that if you massage like the feet, so like baby massages, but especially to the hands and the feet, what it does to really light up the brain. So I've been giving my daughter foot massages since she was a newborn. So she's
Oh, love that. What a lucky lady.
My mom gives my kids foot massages,
Uh-huh.
and I don't need. She doesn't even realize what she's doing, but I'll have to tell her you're doing good work there too. And I
Yeah.
wish that they taught us this, like for your children, that these are good things.
Right.
Pediatricians don't say this. I've never heard this before, but I love that. Like,
Yeah.
Because it's all
Yep.
connected to the brain, and
Yeah.
like you said, it's hitting all of those, the little neurons firing off and everything and development.
It is. It is. Yeah. The other thing as far as like motor development and like milestone, like hitting certain movement milestones is, again, that is sensory based. So it's really allowing as much exploration of their skin, their hands, their feet. I'm not a big proponent on over carrying a child, like over carrying a baby. Of course, skin to skin is super important, but kind of forcing them to figure out the movement milestones of how to get from here to there, right? And of course, understanding like when they have object permanence, like all
Right.
these, I loved all these different stages of my daughter, but when you're just like, okay, they're clearly in this object permanence because it's just like, oops, suddenly they're like, whoa, where'd my mommy go? She's like, a mile away, it seems
Right.
like, in the world. But yeah, we didn't, at the time, my husband and I did not carry my daughter really at all. We just had her on the floor continuously.
Yep.
And yeah, she walked at 8 months.
Wow.
And now she's like a little rock star gymnast. And I really believe that her movement, we just really pushed into optimizing movement and motor development for her because it lights up the brain. It has such a strong correlation between movement and cognitive function. And that's so important.
and I feel like nobody really talks about that. Like I didn't even correlate that until now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could see why that would be that way, and that makes total sense.
Yep.
Well, we're here to spread the word of Dr.
Yeah.
Emily for
Yeah.
sure.
I want to read all these books. I want to read
Yes.
your books. I want to read the books you recommended.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
all
Yes. There is another one Oh my gosh, drawing a blank on it. I'm gonna think of it. It's another really, really, really good one that I recommend. Carla Hannaford is the name. Oh my gosh. If you look up Carla Hannaford, and
Okay.
it's about sensory in children and even things like TV and how it affects the timing of the brain development
Mhm.
and even certain like writing and complex, kind of like the timing of school. And if you push academia too early on a child, just the brain isn't developed in it. She speaks a lot about safety and that if a child doesn't feel safe at home, meaning just like maybe parents are fighting, so that throws
Yeah.
off a safety, right? It's not like they're actually being harmed, but
Right.
safety perception to the autonomic nervous system will shut down their ability to learn. And then these children are being kind of misdiagnosed as
Yep.
things. So I got the name of the book. It's called Smart Moves.
Okay.
Smart Moves. And on the front of the cover is like a playground. And so you'll see it. And it's all about movement in children, laying the foundation to cognitive and emotional performance.
That's amazing.
I love that. I'm gonna definitely check that out. I mean, I think, as parents, we have so much stacked against us in today's society between screens and, games and who's doing what and, keeping up. But I think getting back to those get basics kind of, right? And taking care of the body and the mind and all of
The
that.
senses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So important.
Mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. It's really kind of the basics of probably how a lot of us or the listeners were raised,
Yeah,
like my good old
absolutely.
North Dakota way of growing up, playing in the dirt.
Yeah. You're
Yes,
right.
mud pies all day,
Yeah.
every day.
And being bored, but just going and climbing trees. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I love that you said that because being bored is such a good thing for children, but also adults as well. And there's research that shows that just what do you do when you kind of sit, right? And then that's where your mind kind of starts to have this freedom to create or ideate or connect things that it hasn't connected before. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
love
love
that.
I love inducing boredom for my child.
Me
Yeah,
too. They
same.
protest it, but
At first, right? And then
Yeah.
like they figure something out. They start using their little minds
Yeah.
for whatever, and it's a beautiful thing to see for sure.
Yeah.
Your products, who's a good candidate for your products? Is everyone a good candidate or?
Yeah, so really everyone from children. We do have children's insoles, a lot of our mats and our sensory tools like the neural ball, etc. Those could be used for children. Any child that is on like a sensory spectrum, they're really good for them because a lot of children somewhere on it, so ADHD, autism, just spectrum, right? And it's a big spectrum, but anywhere along that, a lot of those children are sensory seeking. So you are then providing tactile feedback so that they can feel and it calms their nervous system. We also have this product that's called sensory sticks, and they have the texture, but they're weighted. So the combination of weight plus texture is very calming to the nervous system. And we have a lot of parents that will get that for their children, which is just a great benefit of the Naboso products, not only for children with sensory seeking. It could be for adults, people who work on their feet, people who have foot pain, people who are older, people who don't want to fall, maybe they had a stroke, high-level athletes, general foot recovery. So yeah, oftentimes I say if you have feet and a pulse,
I love that.
Yeah.
we are for you.
I can't wait to try the socks. Like I want that. I'm ordering that right away.
Yes,
Yeah.
same.
Yes. Super
Absolutely.
easy. Yeah.
And you have a website, obviously, that people can go and order.
Yes. So again, the company is called Naboso, Naboso. So the website is naboso.com. And then a fun fact about that is Naboso in Czech. It's a Czech word.
I was going to ask
Yeah,
where
with
this
the
came
name.
from.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really a Slavic word, but it means barefoot.
Ah,
That's so
cool.
cool.
Yes.
Oh.
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll link everything too when we post everything, as well as your Instagram accounts. And thank you so much for coming on today. I've learned
I know.
so much.
Thank you
This
for
was
educating us. This is
a
incredible
very fruitful
information,
conversation.
especially for our kids, for all. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. I'm gonna go home
Yeah,
and get
no,
my kids foot massages.
sensory is so great for children. It's so great for mamas, for
Yeah,
everyone.
that's awesome.
So yeah, the more that you can tap into your sensory, the quality and quantity of your sensory stimulation in a day, it really does have a power effect on the way that you move, your mood, and your memory.
And like you were saying, the mood, right? Like sometimes we're stressed out mood, and I don't like you don't even realize that sensory can help you calm down.
Yes, touch is considered nature's natural analgesic. So it's a
Hmm.
great
Yeah,
calming.
so cool.
Love it. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Of course, thank you both.
See y'all next week.
Bye.